Tonight, we're talking about ECAPS. Nope, wait, fuck. We are talking about ECAPS and how sometimes it can be just as problematic and dysfunctional as Emerson students. Basically, they're like the me of Emerson School Services because they're trying, but God love them, they could use some help. I'm Kira Compton, and this is The Punchline. Welcome to The Punchline, kids. Once again, I'm Kira Compton, your hostess with the mostest with a hostess. Delicious. You know, if you eat too many Twinkies, you'll die. But do you know what else will kill you? Getting stabbed. For the past 2 weeks, Emerson has been struck with an epidemic of Wild West justice and clowns. And no, I'm not talking about my writing for TV pilot Bozo, Crooked Sheriff from the Gulch Valley, but seemingly weekly stabbings right by our very own Dunkin' Donuts. In both incidents, no Emerson students were harmed, but it certainly raised questions about safety around campus. I mean, if I were at a restaurant and everyone around me started like projectile vomiting after taking one bite of the tilapia, I would tell my waiter I was a little bit concerned about my safety. Now, Lee Pelton has had ECPD boost their presence around the college, and he's also asked to be with the police commissioner of Boston to discuss things. So, hopefully things will get better, and I will be able to stop stepping over people bleeding out on my way to class. There were also some spooky clowns around Emerson, but that's not important because we had successful clowns around Emerson. On October 16th to 19th, 147 Emerson students were given a free pass to attend the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit, which brought several famous speakers to Boston like Michael Phelps, Jessica Alba, and several YouTubers you probably stopped caring about when you graduated from the 8th grade. They talked about being successful. I totally went to this. For real. Believe me, guys. I learned from all of my icons about being a success. Michael Phelps himself looked me in the eyes and said, "Hey, you're a good swimmer." I also got this exclusive interview with none other than Emerson keynote speaker Ashton Kutcher.
So Ashton Kutcher, what's it like being such a huge success?
Well, Kira, it's awesome.
ECAPS, Emerson's Counseling and Psychological Services. It's a much-needed one-stop shop for all of your mental health needs because, let's face it, all of us kind of identify with the weird girl in the Breakfast Club. It really takes a certain special snowflake to look at a school where our primary sport was invented by an old British lady who writes children's books and say, that's the one. Emerson is like theater camp all year round, except instead of a stage mom, you have that little voice in your head constantly telling you you're a failure. It only takes a few minutes of scrolling through your friends' Facebook feeds to realize that the people at this school are ridiculously involved and accomplished. She's attending a collegiate journalism convention. He's technical associate producer of the Evvies. I got 56 likes on my 3 fictional characters meme. Even my professors were telling me that Captain Jack Sparrow, Misty from Pokemon, and the 3-legged dog that Andy and April adopted in season 4 of Parks and Rec were really accurate choices. Basically, everyone is super busy trying to become super successful, and Emerson's proud of that. Just look at their site. According to Emerson's website, our students are the doers and learners, even after class is over for the day. Unfortunately, that means it's impossible to be sleepers and chillaxers, which means that everyone here is, and I do believe that this is the clinical term, stressed the fuck out. A study conducted at Geneva University found that stress is a major risk factor for mental health issues among young adults. In other news, water is wet. But what's concerning is the results of the survey conducted by the American College Health Association. Last February, apparently, Emerson students have higher levels of anxiety, loneliness, and suicidal thoughts than your average college student. In fact, the stress to succeed at this school is so high that the college is training professors to reach out to students with low test scores, fearing that a low letter grade will trigger some deep-seated sense of worthlessness in most of the students here at Emerson. Kind of like the worthlessness my parents instilled in me when they said, "Kira, Dungeons and Dragons is not a career." That cut deep. Now, this brings us to ECAPS. When you think of orientation week, you probably remember your awkward hooray family who low-key hated you, and all those fun videos that high-key promised ECAPS could solve each and every one of your mental health problems.
When your depression or your anxiety starts to get in the way of your life, it's time to seek help. The good thing is, at Emerson, there are lots of places where you can do that. You can go to ECAPS, which is Emerson Counseling and Psychological Services, formerly known as just the Counseling Center. I went last year. I had a great counselor named William. He's unfortunately was a grad student and, well, unfortunately for me, probably fortunately for him, graduated and moved on, and is moving on in his psychological adventures, I don't know, but he was super helpful to me, and you can find someone who's super helpful for you at the counseling center. The thing is, there aren't always enough hours in the day to help the amount of students at Emerson, so if you do think that you're going to need some help along the line, I suggest making an appointment in advance. Whether you think like, hey, I'm going to be stressed around midterms, or in a couple weeks I might feel upset about being away from home, I might start feeling some homesickness, or maybe you just want to talk about how great it's going. These people are there for you to talk to, and, you know, use the resource. It's free, and there should be no stigma about talking to anyone. I think that everyone should absolutely go and talk to a counselor at some point, whether you have a mental illness or not.
They're like a Freudian fairy godmother who, instead of taking you to the ball, lets you just ball in front of them. Balls! Their mission statement states that their primary goal is to help students fully develop their intellectual, emotional, and social potential, and that they regard your concerns with respect, curiosity, and interest. But in the professional world, that's kind of like clicking the interested button on a Facebook event. It's like they want to be your mom who will be there for you whenever you need it, as long as you can schedule your mental breakdown 2 weeks in advance. ECAPS also has a 4.8 out of 5 stars on their Facebook page based on a total of 4 reviews by, this is true, Emerson staff, which means that at least one of them did not give it 5 stars. Now, I know Emerson has a problem with school spirit, but this is a new low. It's even lower than my self-esteem, and let me tell you, my self-esteem is lower than Donald Trump's minority vote. ECAPS is accredited by the International Association of Counseling Services. There are currently 12 staff members and one adorable widow puppy dog who's preventing suicidal thoughts. You are. Now, of those 13 people and 1 doggo working at ECAPS, 4 are non-Emerson interns who take part in the clinical training program. Which is weird, because if their internship is anything like my internship, that means 1/3 of their staff's primary job is doing Starbucks runs. Now, ECAPS interns obviously do a lot more than that, but at the end of the day, they are still interns. Officially, ECAPS's goal is to prevent, reduce, and eliminate emotional and psychological barriers that may interfere with developmental process. Buzzwords. This could entail anything from one-on-one conversations to support groups to providing referrals for outside counseling, or maybe just time in the sunroom. That's a room with a big lamp, or so I'm told, which sounds really great. All those things seem like good things, but when everyone needs to take advantage of all these good things, it sort of becomes like the cornucopia in the Hunger Games, except instead of getting weapons, you're vying for 45-minute slots with tired interns. If you've ever suffered through an economics class, you know that this is basically the law of supply and demand. You know, if everyone wants lemonade, you have to buy more lemons. And if your student body is falling apart, you have to buy more therapists. According to the Berkeley Beacon, ECAPS has seen a 31% increase in the use of their services from the fall 2011 academic year to spring 2015. Despite this, the staff has remained the same size. Well, it's gotten a little bit bigger because we hired a puppy. Oh, who's preventing people from getting proper treatment? You are. No, seriously. Because of the inclusion of the therapy dog, people who don't need help are going to ECAPS just to play with the puppy. And when you combine that with the ballooning demand for the services, this is translating to extremely long wait times for meetings with ECAPS. Our research staff conducted a survey and found that around 2/3 of the students who responded had to wait 1 to 2 weeks before getting an appointment with ECAPS, with some students waiting even longer. Even Elise Harrison, director of ECAPS, has said that there are only so many hours in a day, so without more staff, we can only accommodate so many students. But when you're dealing with issues in mental health, every day matters. It's similar to how Ben & Jerry's keeps in the fridge. You can keep it together at first, but if you wait too long, it's all just depressing chunks in water. #NoChunks. And the thing is that when students do get to have an appointment with ECAPS, they really do benefit from it. In the survey we held, the majority of students claimed that ECAPS was extremely helpful. We talked to students who claimed that ECAPS changed them for the better and that it has a great reputation for being extremely helpful in emergency situations. But the problem is that the demand for the service is spread way too thin to effectively address the concerns facing most Emersonians. And that causes the patients to feel less like patients and more like Fast and Furious movies. It's not that they're bad per se. They just get churned out too fast, too quick, and too formulaic. Appointments are only 45 minutes, and a bunch of those are handled by, you guessed it, the interns, people who can handle some issues, but not all of them. And when you get down to it, experience matters. You wouldn't trust a first-day barista to make your non-fat mocha skinny Oprah chai latte. You wouldn't trust the Emerson channel to make an original show, and you definitely wouldn't trust a person with a failed steak business to be the president of the United States, just saying. So what happens when you go to ECAPS? When students first visit ECAPS, they undergo what's known as an intake appointment. That's where you fill out all your paperwork, you meet your therapist, and they ask you about all your deepest, darkest, and most personal thoughts and fears. You know, like how the world has no meaning, my fears over how they might not have macaroni and cheese pizza in the DH today, and how I have a hardcore castration anxiety. From there, ECAPS will often refer students to outside care. They know they're not equipped to handle students who need long-term therapy. This is of no fault of their own. Again, there are 12 people, and they have to deal with a ridiculous number of students every day. So they've got their work cut out for them. But while outside therapy is often the best option, it does come with some additional problems. Namely, we live in America, and therapy is fucking expensive. Like, we're talking out of Richie Rich's price range, and he's the world's richest kid. He can afford a water slide in his house, but he can't afford to talk to someone about why he bought a water slide in his house. ECAPS usually refers students to therapists who are covered by their insurance policy. Because insurance jargon is confusing as hell, here's some guy in a bubble bath to break it all down for you.
Basically, if ECAPS sends you to an outside provider, you have to pay a $20 copay, which is like the cover charge for a Rager, plus 20% of whatever the session would cost. If you're seeing this therapist twice a week, those bills are just going to start adding up, because that stuff is really expensive. If you're working an on-campus job like 20 hours a week, 2 sessions cost you like 1 paycheck. And that's not even the worst part. If you go to a non-provider, then you will have to pay 40% instead of 20%. That's like double. And then you start worrying about the money, and then you start worrying about the therapist. It's all just... Or you know what? You can come hang out in this bubble bath with me. Cheers.
It takes a bunch of factors for a school to create a successful mental health program: a comprehensive strategy, financially accessible care options, and a thoughtful campus culture around mental health. There is also a big difference between mental health services and actually getting students to use them. And evidence of Emerson's efforts towards the cause, such as an operating Active Minds chapter, is a great start. But we need to figure out a policy that can most support students making the right decision for themselves. One that takes into account the fact that every student has different needs and circumstances. Money, of course, is a huge issue. Maybe some Emersonians can afford private therapy, but others can't. Especially those of us who learned the hard way that the Bolex is a very expensive enemy. Unfortunately, universities have zero responsibility in this department. According to the JED Foundation, no level of government has created a legal mandate demanding that schools provide mental health services, which is shit. Still, there can be a financial benefit to universities that spend money on those services. They stand a better chance of keeping students struggling with mental health in school, and thus not losing their tuition. So yes, Emerson Board of Trustees, it makes fiscal sense to at least invest in some more staff. We can keep the students healthy and alive and have a giant modern art installation in LA sitting proudly between Grand Ave and Hope Street. My grand hope is that we try harder to figure out a way to make Emerson in all schools a safer environment, because that's how we protect our doers and learners. After all, we don't want to rob the school of promising alumnus to add to our network, aka the highly celebrated Emerson Mafia, since, you know, it's all about those strong RIs. And until we get the change we want, we're going to just need to talk to the very people at the top. So, if you'll excuse me for just a minute. To talk more about an Emerson student's day-to-day, we have our resident, run-of-the-mill senior Emerson correspondent, Stacy. Here you are, Stacy.
Hi, Kira.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great. I'm actually doing so well. I feel like
Yeah?
shit and like I could collapse and die right here, but that's like every day, so it's not a big deal.
I don't think that's true. So what are you working on, Stacy?
Oh, yeah. So I'm a VMA major with a marketing minor. I've written and directed for like a whole bunch of Emerson Channel and EOV shows. Worked on Breaking News, Common Agenda, The Dish, Laundry Room, Good Morning Emerson, Speechless, Tommy's Flying Mommies. I'm writing and developing my own EIV show right now, which is so cool. And whenever I'm not doing that,
Right. This is not a job interview, Stacy.
I'm sorry.
It's totally okay. So what else do you do other than Emerson's
Sorry,
show?
I have to reschedule a meeting because fucking Kyle can't make 2 a.m. on Tuesday because of his paper. So stupid. Anyway, sorry, what was your question again?
I was asking, what else do you do other than
Oh,
Emerson's
right.
shows?
So I'm on the e-board for Eagle. I'm captain of the Quidditch team. I'm a dancer on the EVs. I'm in every single comedy troupe on campus. And I'm also in the honors program, but that one's like, whatever, who cares? And when I'm not doing that, I work in the community as a sound designer, community theater. And I also work part-time at the Brattle in Cambridge.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, I still have 4 academic classes on top of that, which is like, who cares? I schedule them all for Monday, so I would have more time for extracurriculars.
Jesus, that's a lot. What else was your weekly schedule look like?
Well, on Monday, I have...
Is that Coke? Is that Coke?
Should I... Okay, I'll put it up. So Monday, I start out with an 8 a.m., a little bit of that, and then I go from there to rehearsal, and then I have another class, and then I have a writer's meeting, and then from there I'm in the studio until 10, and then usually I can grab something from the Max at like that point, but then I have to go to...
You must have some free time open on the weekends, right?
Oh, no. Usually I'm on set most of my weekend, and then if I feel like dealing with the hangover the next day, I'll go to the treehouse for a party. And then Sunday morning, wake up early, go to Quidditch, church in the NPR, and then run off to work, and that's pretty much my week. Starts all over.
How do you feel after a long day?
Like shit, but you know, that's how everyone feels. You just gotta get up the next day and keep going.
I don't think so. You seem to do a lot of things.
No way. My friends are doing so much more than me, and I have to do more, and the older people than me are doing more than me, and I just have to do more and more and more, or else I'll fall behind. But that's just how it is. We only have 4 years here. We have to pack in as many things as we can.
4 years is plenty of time, Stacy.
No, not at all. I don't even have my own show yet, and I don't have an internship for summer. I don't have an apartment for next year, and I was hoping to write and direct my own web series over break, but like, do I even want to? Do I even have the time, you know?
Stacy, hey, you know, you don't need to worry about all this right now. Who said we have to do all this during college, you know?
Me? I'm great at everything I do. You guys should get me to write for this show. Oh, sorry. Fuck, I am totally running late for my 8 p.m. meeting with Tommy to talk about our new media art installation, but thanks for having me.
Stacy. The point is, mental health on campus is something that should be taken seriously. At a school like Emerson, where everyone is putting in long hours to suffer for their art, we need a mental health service program that can keep up with the increasing volume of patients who need their services. As it stands now, Emerson's counseling and psychological services just isn't well funded and staffed enough to address the school's needs. It's like a McDonald's being run by one dude named Chet. Sure, he can take on the lunch rush on his own, but it's gonna take the Chetmeister 2 weeks to get you your burger, and unlike a Big Mac, mental health has a shelf life. We go to a school that's a combo bag of shit for mental health, and our student body is chock full of queer, depressed, sensitive artists. And the only ones available to help us are interns and overworked therapists who are only around once a fortnight. We're overwhelmed by the school's own design. In other words, the average Emerson student can't handle the workload, and honestly, neither can ECAPS.